Thanks for coming along, everybody. My name's Mark Tranter, and I am a principal consultant from Equal Experts. I'm someone that actually goes into clients and does the work on the ground. I'm technical, so my background is software engineering, cloud automation, DevOps, all those fun buzzwords. And as part of Equal Experts, engagements, something we really love is continuous delivery. And that's what we're here tonight to talk about. So myself on clients, I help try and drive those technical processes that lead to continuous delivery. So test automation, continuous testing, deployment automation, cloud automation, monitoring, observability, continuous integration, all those great DevOps buzzwords that lead us to hopefully a nice continuous delivery environment. We find quite often when we try and go towards continuous delivery, there's a bit of fear, there's a bit of concern. It feels a bit like a cowboy move, right? What I'm going to push. If everything goes green, it's going to go to production, right? And that can feel a little bit scary. What's interesting about that is if you look at the DORA research or some of the stuff out of the Accelerate book, is that there is a predictive relationship between successful continuous delivery and actually achieving things like culture of psychological safety, job satisfaction, less developer burnout. And what's really interesting to think about tonight's talk that Adrian's about to give us is that we're kind of going to shift left on that psychological safety piece. So while it sort of feels like it's downstream from continuous delivery, Adrian's going to show us with Launch Darkly, with the tool he's going to show us tonight with this talk, how we can take that feeling of safety, that culture of psychological safety, and move it left, and we can start to build that into the way we code our system so that we feel safe whenever we push. I haven't seen this talk yet, and I'm really excited to see it. So I'm going to hand over to Adrian now. And Adrian, thanks for coming out tonight and doing this with us, and I'm really looking forward to hear what you have to say.
Awesome. No, thanks so much for introducing me, Mark. So, hey, everyone, I'm Adrian. So I'm one of the solutions engineers here at Launch Darkly. So just for those who don't know what Launch Darkly is, we're a SaaS-based platform prioritizing feature management. And what feature management is basically it's a service where we provide to developers, product managers, and marketers where they can really control all of their feature flags within one platform, so they can go in and figure out, okay, I just want to show this login page to a few select people in Coventry, but not to the rest of the UK. And there's quite a lot of things that go much deeper into that with feature flags. It also enables a lot of things like psychological safety with what Mark said, preventing developer burnout, and also creating a very positive developer culture. You know, all of us are trying to achieve DevOps, whatever that means within your own terms. And one of the best things about getting within the DevOps culture is getting blameless, being safe, and deploying on Fridays at 5 p.m. whilst feeling confident as well. And that's what my talk will be about today. And if there's no other questions in the chat window, I will start showing my presentation. Is everyone here able to see my screen? Mark, I might need you to just verify if that's okay.
Yeah, it looks a bit, I can only sort of see half of your browser. That's better.
That's better?
Yep, much better.
Can you see the whole browser now?
I think so, yeah, I can.
You think so? Wait, hold up. How about
it's hard to tell, but I think I can't tell where the bounds of your screen actually are, but I think I'm seeing the whole thing. Yep, that's good.
What about now?
Yep, looks good. I'll let you know if anything looks funny. I'll jump in.
Sure, no problems. And yeah, anyone please mention in the chat window if anything does happen, you can't see the screen, something blips out, anything like that as well. So yeah, so today what I really want to talk about is about how do you go faster and be safe at the same time. And and as children, we've been trained that the faster we go, the more chance we will fall, and then it will hurt more. Imagine that, remember your childhood. Well, a lot of us probably don't remember it, especially when we're 1 year old. Or you look at your kids or nieces, nephews, that when they learn how to walk and run, we don't go as fast because it's a bit scary. Imagine you're running and you fall over, it hurts quite a lot. And then fast forward a couple of years, we're going to learn how to ride a bike. You get on, you slowly tip forward, and then the adults say, go faster, you won't fall. And obviously, as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old kid, you're thinking, of course that makes sense. That's how physics and angular momentum works. No, we don't think that. We think the faster we ride, the more chance we'll fall off completely, which is basically what we've been trained to do. And riding a bike is completely opposite of that. And what we're really scared of when we're taking those first steps is we're scared of falling, we're scared of being hurt physically, but it's also being hurt mentally as well. And there's so many things that we're scared of, especially when we're failing. And if you just fast forward that to a business or a corporate culture, a lot of us are actually scared of failing. And a lot of reasons for that is because we don't want to look stupid. Imagine that you're a developer, you're writing some cool code, you push it out and it doesn't work. It breaks, it looks bad, and it's all in production. You're thinking, oh no, what's going to happen now? I need to go back and fix it. So a lot of the times before we go over to production, before we push to production, we work extra hard to avoid that mistake. That's the traditional approach of pushing code to production when you go to dev, test, staging prod. And now when we're talking about psychological safety, we really want to create a safe space to try new things and learn from our previous mistakes without shifting any blame. That's the ultimate goal where we all want to achieve. However, what's more worrying is that we're not failing. We're not creating enough mistakes. If you want to start to evolve and really start to surpass everyone else, you really have to keep moving. And no company or organization gets to rest without knowing that they've done something that they haven't done, and unless your competitor has done it as well. If you've read the Accelerate book, there's a page in there that says, look, 3, 4, 5 years ago, the top DevOps performers would deploy to production 5 times a day. Fast forward that 3 years later, if you just kept on keeping that deployment of 5 times a day, you're not in the top performers section anymore. You're actually in the bottom to middle tier. You're not innovating fast enough. So it's always about continuously innovating, pushing new things out, and trying new techniques in order to move faster. And especially within the industry we're in, if we don't keep up with everything, we all know what happens. Hint, hint, blockbuster. And so how does going faster actually help us, especially from a developer's perspective? Oops, apologies. There we go. Just a little blip on my end over here. So fast, what really means is basically continuously integrating and testing your code, sometimes deploying. It's not about waiting for long release cycles or major release versions. Imagine that you're working at a bank, you can only deploy once every 3 months. Everyone's trying to jam in all these changes in one go. That's not really fast. It could be safe, but imagine that you're still deploying within that traditional process within this day of age. You're not going to get as far as your competitors because you're not getting enough feedback from the market. It's all about, hey, how do we get to deploying daily, even deploying weekly? It's definitely not an overnight transition, but it's definitely a process. Let's say today you're deploying once a month. It's great. Okay, how do we get to twice a month, once a week? It's about a slow, progressive delivery. And fast is basically a way to iterate on changes when they're still small and easy to correct. And another aspect of fast is also moving at the pace of what your customers want. With what your customers want, everyone's just on apps and mobile phones nowadays. We all want something really quickly. When we order an Uber, we want it instantly. When we go on Netflix, we want to watch a movie immediately. We've all been trained to get fast feedback, and if you're not reacting to the market, you're not innovating fast enough. But when we're moving fast, we also have to want to be safe as well. You want to make sure that when you're developing code, it's what the users want. Otherwise, it's going to be a big backlash. I'm not sure if you're aware. So quite a number of years ago, eBay tried to change their background from yellow to white. And so what they did was they deployed the code from yellow to white, and the backlash on that was terrible. They're like, what is this color? It's terrible. So eBay quickly reverted it back to yellow, and they're thinking, oh crap, how do we do it? And so what they did was they gradually changed it from yellow to white bit by bit, rather than just one big bang approach. They slowly phased it out. So rather yellow, yes, less yellow, lesser yellow, and then slowly, incrementally including more white. And that's how they transition. And that's how they transitioned users to having a white background. That's one story. Feel free to Google it. And so if you're thinking, wait, how do we do this? How do we move fast and be safe at the same time? Feature flags are definitely one way to make sure that you're able to move fast and safe, as safe as you can. They give you an opportunity to make small launches without showing them to everybody. And if you're just thinking, wait, Adrian, isn't feature flags just an on-off kind of thing? No, it isn't really. Feature flags, what they allow you to do is give you the ability to separate your deploy and release process. If you're thinking, what's the difference? Deploy means updating your code base in production. Releasing it actually means actually showing it to customers. And feature flags allow you to do this. And it's a lot more powerful than just the on-off. You can also select different target states, select specific individuals, roll out to 10% of your user cohort. There's so many things you can do now with feature flags. It's more than just on-off. And one of the most powerful things, especially when you're doing progressive delivery, when you're deploying code in production and leveraging feature flags, you can start testing in production. If I said this 5 to 10 years ago, I'll be getting thrown tomatoes and cabbages to me nowadays. But in this day and age, we are really able to start to test this idea. Imagine that, let's say you want to put something in production, and you just really want to test it out whether it works. You can use feature flags just to select, hey Mark, I just want you to see this feature just to test what it's like. And then you can release it for your QA team, your security team, your internal dev team. There's so many things you can do with testing in production now. And whether you know it or not, you're doing it right now regardless. It just depends whether you have enough control over it or not. Imagine that you're developing a new Bitcoin trading system. You're really against testing in production. When you deploy it to production, in a way, you are testing it. So you rather have control of it and know that you're doing it, rather than just going big bang approach and seeing what it's like as well. And on top of that, feature flags also allow you to deliver in different stages, which give developers and the business that psychological safety. You can control to see, okay, who can see it? 10%, 20% of my cohorts, people in specific countries. And so you can really figure out, okay, how does your application scale? What's the user feedback like? Back to that Bitcoin trading system, imagine that you just did a one big bang approach to the world, or to a specific country, Australia, or 25 million people. If you deliver that in stages, you're really able to get that feedback from a select group cohort of customers and figure out, okay, this is what our market wants, this is what we're going to design with, and this is how our application would scale as you gradually ramp it up. If you just deploy it without doing a lot of that testing, we all really don't know what would happen. And there's a couple of other things as well. Imagine that, let's say you do deploy that Bitcoin trading system, and a small part of that process goes wrong. So let's say the price of the Bitcoin tracker is delayed by 5 minutes. Rather than just rolling back the entire artifact with 10 to 15 features in it, you can just roll back that specific individual feature while making sure that the rest of the platform is still live. So your developers can go back and really figure out, okay, this is the part where I need to focus on and fix, everything else is up and running. I don't need to roll back the entire platform. So TLDR, if you want to release, do it often, and you want to make it safer and less scary by using feature flags, not specifically launch darkly, but if you're not using feature flags today, it's something that you should definitely consider. And one benefit that obviously provides that psychological safety is around stress as well. And there's a big link between how safe you feel whenever you're deploying code and what your stress levels are. And if you're not sure, actually, whoops, apologies. If you're not sure, we did a study a while back that if you look at the very stressed column all the way on the left-hand side, before using feature flags, 19% of developers would feel very stressed during deployments. After using feature flags, you reduce that back to 2%. Now relate that back to psychological safety. Developers feel so much more safe each time they deploy because you're really able to control how quickly that feature goes on and how quickly you can roll back that specific feature. One side note, we can all keep all of our hair using feature flags. That's one of the major benefits as well. And so what I'm going to do now is I'll show you a quick demo of how Launch Darkly works and how it really starts to enable that psychological safe culture. So just give me a quick second to switch my screen over here. Mark, are you able to still see my screen?
I can, mate. I can see the Launch Darkly console and the spaceman.
Awesome, no worries. So for those people who haven't seen Launch Darkly before, over here on the left-hand side, this is the Launch Darkly portal. On a line-by-line item over here, each of these are particular feature flags. So within this particular scenario, all that code has already been deployed into production, but it hasn't been shown to any end users yet. And let's say, as an example, Mark, you're the lovely chief product officer that's managing this application on the right-hand side, and you want to deploy a QR code to it. Traditionally, you will need to go through dev, test, staging, go through 10 million approvals before you go to production. However, by incorporating feature flags, you're really able to deploy that code up front. And then once the business is ready, anyone can go over here, push the on button, review and save, press save changes, and boom, straight away, that flag is now on and everyone is able to see that specific feature, that specific feature. If something goes wrong, Mark can just go back over here and just roll it back and say, oh, that's not the mark I wanted. I need to roll it back to make sure and figure out, okay, what's happening? I need to debug my code. Do I need to change something? And so to mitigate all of Mark's concerns, next time he deploys on a Friday at 5 p.m. or release this feature at 5 p.m., he can add specific individuals. He can add myself over here. He can add Mark. He can add his own colleagues or the QA team. So only those specific individuals can see that feature. And then gradually, as he progresses through his audience, he can select specific countries. So let's say if the country is part of Australia, he can select, say, okay, I want 50% of Australia to see this and no one else. And it's all controllable via an easy GUI as well. And now for the members of the audience, if it's okay, can I get your mobile phones out to scan the QR code? And what it should do, it should take you over to the web page on the right, to the application on the right-hand side on your phone. If you're really interested, you can look at the code. It's all on my public GitHub repo, so you can figure out, okay, so you can go in, look at the source code, figure out what's happening, and debug it if you really wish.
I'll just give it 30 seconds, Adrian. Everyone wants to give us some feedback
no
in the chat. See if you can see the spaceman. I've got it on my phone. I see a similar thing
Awesome.
to what you've got.
Maybe if the members of the audience, if you can just maybe give like a little thumbs up in the chat window that says, look, yeah, I've scanned it. No, there's no malicious. That's a good one.
You and your work.
You can look at the code if you like, John. It's all public. Awesome. And now one of the beauties of feature flags is that you can actually target specific cohorts or users. So over here within my feature flag rule, what I've set is basically if you're using an iPhone, I'm going to change the background color to blue. If you're using Android, I'm going to change the background color to red. And if you keep your phone on and if I press on and save, did everyone see that change on their phone immediately? Yep.
I did. Super cool.
Matthew went blue. Oh, it's because you're using an iPhone, Matt.
Yeah,
so yeah, this is just like a quick overview of look what feature flags can do, especially when you want to target cohorts, mitigate risk. And let's say if I want to roll everything back that I wanted to do, crap, this didn't go as well. I can just easily go back to the console over here, turn this off, and then boom, everything's rolled back to a previous state. And this is really powerful, especially when you're doing large deployments and you really want to test out what's happening within the market as well. That's about it for my talk. Thanks so much, everyone. Mark, I'll pass it back over to you for the Q&A section next.
Fantastic. Well, my video's got all funny. Can you guys just see a quarter of my face, or can you see the whole of my face? How fortunate you are.
Just a quick note for everyone. As part of the Q&A, for the first 3 questions that are asked, you do get these lovely pair of Launch Darkly socks.
Oh, I was about to jump in, but I'll wait.
To keep you warm during winter.
Well, we're waiting for some questions to come in, actually, I just want to deep dive on a couple of those points. There's something really that hit home to me that I'd never thought about before, to be honest. I've been doing this for a while, which was, let me just check my notes here, this idea of implicit versus explicit testing in production. So even if you're not using feature flags, even if you're not doing continuous delivery, you're still testing in production because your product either works or it doesn't, right? Yeah. It's either a hit with the market or it's not, or a hit to some degree. I think that's a really important idea to take away from the talk.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love the idea of decoupling production deployment from release, right? Often it's thought of as the same thing, that you deploy to production and that's it, it's released. I think this is really important, and I think your demo really highlighted that a deployment to production doesn't mean anything necessarily needs to be released. And on the same note, allowing your product team or your product manager or CPO or whoever it is to be in charge of the releases is fantastic. It sort of adds a new layer to cross functionality, right?
Yeah.
Release is taken out of tech hands. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Like engineers are just so busy. We're developing new features, doing things like debugging code, attending meetings. Imagine empowering people from the business just to go in and just flick flags on and off. If I deploy the code, it's all there. Now it's up to the product manager to schedule that in. And during a change process, that's one less dependency on the engineering team as well.
So cool. Also, a point that I thought you were going to make, but didn't end up making. That first slide, I think, was a girl on a bike. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, I can understand what's going to come here, because when you first start riding a bike, you go really slow. And you can't ride a bike when you go slow. But once you build up a certain level of proficiency, you realize that to be good, you need to hit a certain velocity to really be a competent bike rider. Otherwise, you're going to fall off. Even if you're a really good bike rider, going slow tends to be kind of dangerous.
That's why you have to go fast. And how do you go fast and being safe at the same time?
100%. Got a question from John. Thanks, John. What about data corruption? So I guess, John, that is the hard problem where you're thinking about, you add some new field to a new API that's behind a feature flag, and you decide to toggle that feature flag on and off over time. Is that what you mean, John? Just to jump in on the Slack.
Yeah, John, if that's okay. If you dive.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Tough question. Yeah. Adrian, got any?
Yeah, it's definitely. Mark, sorry, I'm not sure whether you want to answer or myself.
No, please jump in. It's a hard question.
Yeah.
I'll let you
Yeah,
take the hard
especially
ones.
yeah, especially when you're making changes, that's also a lot. That's also relevant to database changes. You do have to be careful. Feature flags are very application code based, and especially when you include database levels, you do have to schedule those extra changes and do those extra levels of testing within dev and test as well. So funnily enough, Atlassian's actually one of our largest customers, and they use Launch Darkly to resolve 90% of their incidents. The other 10% is probably related to back to things like data corruption or something going wrong at the database level.
Super cool. So I guess that leads into another question, which is so what we just saw, I guess, was Launch Darkly. That demo you showed us was Launch Darkly on the client, just as easily runs on the server.
Yeah, definitely. Look, Launch Darkly is friendly. You can use it for client and front end and back end systems as well. It's just not targeted at. It's not just targeted at front end. You can use it for basically any application code layer. And we do support quite a wide variety of SDKs as well. Unfortunately, my three favorite languages of F#, COBOL, and Visual Basic aren't supported. I have been trying to advocate for it. I don't think product is liking it, so I will keep trying.
No good. What about Scala?
I think potentially. No, I need to double check off the top of my head. I know the popular one, JavaScript, Python, all that.
And this might be getting a little bit technical for some of the audience, but I'm going to ask anyway. So obviously, given that it does real-time changes on the client, you're using WebSockets or server-send events or something like that. Is it the same on the server? It does the same, has the same mechanism. You don't need to worry about sort of polling for changes of those feature flags.
Yeah, definitely. So everything's done via server-sent events. That's how quickly you get that response time. So it actually takes. Actually, I'll leave it back up to the audience to answer this one, and you get a nice pair of socks. If anyone can answer this, how fast does it take for the flag to propagate back on your devices? You will get a nice pair of socks. It's under 1 second. So every time when you flip that feature flag on or off, if a developer or a product manager doesn't see anything different, they know something's broken. So whereas with a polling mechanism, if it's done via fifth, that's right. Oh, well done, John. You've answered it. 200 milliseconds. Nice Googling. If you did Google it.
ChatGPT.
So ChatGPT. So yeah, it actually takes 200 milliseconds for the flag to propagate all the way through to your end users' devices. And so yeah, as a product manager, yep.
No, please continue.
Yeah, as a product manager, if something doesn't happen immediately, you know something's wrong. If you're done via polling, even if it's 15, 30 seconds or a minute, if you change something and you have to wait 15 or 30 seconds for that to go through, you're wondering, okay, did it go through? Did it not go through? Did something go wrong? Every minute an outage in production counts. So cool. Having that ability to figure out what's going on and whether it worked or not straight away using flags really helps you out.
So that's good for your RPOs and RTOs or whatever those great metrics are. Oh, yeah. Great question from John, actually, and it leads into a question that I'd also like to ask. So John's asked, how granular should you get with the feature flags? I imagine it is something you just evolve to find the right balance.
Yeah, it just really depends on what you and your organization define as a feature. So maybe back at that Bitcoin trading platform, which I mentioned earlier, I want to wrap the entire platform as one feature, maybe just like the price of the Bitcoin, the title, the specific graph as different, all of them as different features, but it's really up to your product manager or your organization to define, okay, what you should wrap behind a feature flag. Maybe one example should be, what do you want the customer to see that's wrapped together? So let's say if you want them to see the graph and the price of Bitcoin live together, maybe that should be wrapped under one feature flag.
Which leads into my question, which is, I might be concerned about feature flag bloat. I can imagine getting to this point in my code where I have these conditional logic all over the place with feature flags from 6 months ago. is there a way, say, either in general or specific to Launch Darkly, that lets me manage that sort of stale feature flags?
Yeah, definitely. And especially, and I'll actually share my screen for this specific example,
please.
Mark.
Let me
So,
turn the camera off.
so yeah, over here, so within the portal, you can actually filter down on your specific flag. So what you can filter down on is the specific flag status. So over here, I can filter around to see, okay, which flags were just created, which flags were active, which flags were launched. And if I go to inactive over here and press add, you can see, oh, okay, these are all the flags which aren't being used anymore. They're inactive. I can go back and archive them later on. But you can also filter back on the flags which have been launched. Launched, what it means within the Launch Darkly concept is if it's been rolled out to all users for more than 7 days. Because once the flag has been rolled out, you can go back over here, archive the flag, and then that gets removed from the system. But it's also about the code level as well, which is the most important thing. So, and it's always annoying, especially when you get another engineer to look at to figure out, okay, where's your feature flag within your code base? They're looking through lines and lines of code, and they can't work it out. So what we've built is basically a direct integration back with your Git repository. So over here, I can determine and find out, okay, where does my React QR code feature flag code base sit within my code base? I can go back over here and see, oh, okay, it sits within line 8 of my QR code.js file. I go to view and source. I can see, oh, this is line 8. This is where I need to focus on, and this is where I need to remove all the wrappers and all the extra lines of codes around it, and then make that a permanent feature as part of my code base as well. And you should always be scheduling something like an epic or an action once a month, once every couple of sprints, to really go back and clean it up. The more code within your code base, the more if statements, the more lines, it really starts to drag down your build size as well. So definitely, it's important to go back and clean that up later on.
That's super cool. Love that feature. And let me just check here. No, well, I'll keep going because I've got. Oh, here we go.
Ooh, one from Emma.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Emma. Oh, my apologies. You go.
Yeah, no. If it fall, what are some of the other organizations Launch Darkly are working with? Good question. Thanks, Emma.
Yeah. So Emma, we worked with 3 of the big 4 banks within Australia right now. A couple of the large groceries. Actually, one of the big 4 banks that I can mention is NAB. So they're one of our public case studies. So they're definitely using us for the mobile app. And one of the large grocers that are currently within Australia, they leverage us to, feature flags things in and out of the cart system. One of the large pizza stores leverage us as well globally. It's important to make sure that everyone gets their pizzas on time, especially at night. So quite a large variety of different customers, but a big focus around the e-commerce space, but basically anything that's customer facing or they need real-time updates immediately, that's when a lot of organizations start to look at Launch Darkly. And it's never just awesome, I go from 0 to Launch Darkly. It's always, okay, I'm going to go from 0 to build my own feature flag system, a basic on-off switch. And then once you're there and you really need to use a lot more advanced capabilities, that's when you start looking things like Launch Darkly.
Great. And another question, which might seem a little bit weird given how much I was bigging up how great I think it is to have product handle those flags and segmentation and on and off. Are those capabilities available via, say, API or infrastructure as code? Can I manage them with, say, Terraform, for example, or something like that?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we have a rich API. So just go to Google and type in Launch Darkly API. You can manage all your flags via an API as well. You can also manage it via Terraform templates, so you can control all your feature flags via those as well. And one big thing is also around the integration piece. So we all love specific developer tools, but if the tool doesn't integrate with anything, we don't love it anymore. And so we integrate with a lot of like different things like Teams, Slack, your observability tools. So let's say if you're using Datadog sees too many 500 errors, Datadog will send a webhook event back to LaunchDarkly to turn the feature flag off immediately. So there's no more of that manual intervention anymore. And so things like PagerDuty, Pendo, Jira, we integrate with just to make a lot of those processes a lot more efficient.
Wow. And a good question from Luke Murphy, who says, really cool. Can you schedule the feature flags to automatically flick on off at a particular time? For example, I want feature X to be switched on between 9 and 10 and to then help with my data analytics. Great question.
Yeah, Luke. Yeah. So it's really simple. Within the feature flag, there's a little button that says schedule my change. You just say 9 a.m. turn on, 10 a.m. turn off. Or within the UI, or done via wizard, just like Windows 95.
So great. Oh, John really wants these socks.
I know.
I should get a pair. John might have to get 2 pairs. I wouldn't mind a pair myself. I saw you can target a user, but can you also target groups, say an Azure AD group or some other claim in a JWT?
It's not as easy to target things like Azure AD groups. You do have to do a bit of integration and configuration to target those specific users. Oh, short answer, yes. Long answer, you do need to configure it and to make sure that you can target those specific users as well. So there's a list of things that you define when you start to use LaunchDarkly, flags. And so one specific attribute where you can capture about those users when they visit your applications is, what is your AD group are they part of? They send it back up to us, and then we can target back on that specific group as well. I'm assuming you're talking about internal applications, John.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What about JWT claims? It seems, or at least, can you give us some idea of how groups are defined in the abstract or in the console? So I'm interested in that myself, actually.
Yeah. So
groups are groups or segments or whatever they are in LD language.
Yeah. So within LaunchDarkly, the groups are defined by something called segments. So it's up to the product manager or whoever owns that specific project to define what they think is a segment. So you can define a list of internal employees as a segment, a list of people within Sydney as a segment. It's all really down to how that product manager defines it. And then once you create that segment or that group, you can start to retarget that specific segment in all your feature flags. So let's say if you want, let's say, all Sydney people to see a specific feature, you can just continuously add and remove people from that specific segment as well.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, so John said to target power users or testers, I guess, which is probably a really good use case where you want to push the change to production, get it in front of testers, just get like I make the changes to dev, just get it in front of me, for example, get it in front of the mob, if we're mob programming, for example. How can we get that change in front of all of us? That's easy enough to do.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Any more questions? Look, I am feeling extra generous, so I do have an extra 2 more pairs of socks to give away. So if anyone wants to ask a question, feel free. These lovely socks will be up for grabs.
Look at those. And I realized I didn't introduce you either before you kicked off your talk, Adrian. So Adrian is a solution. What's the actual title, Adrian? You want to give us your title?
Oh yes. So my official title is a enterprise solutions engineer, but basically I'm just a technical guy. So
enterprise solutions engineer from LaunchDarkly.
Yeah. So basically working on a lot of the pre and post sales engagements for customers interested, helping them run workshops, sessions, and really figure out, okay, how you best use LaunchDarkly as a tool within your environment.
So if no one else asks any questions, I'm gonna ask Adrian for the socks because I love merch. Ooh. So if anyone wants to stop me from getting the socks, feel free to jump in. Here we go.
Steven, you have stopped Mark.
What if you have to? What if some of these people are in the UK? Are you happy with international post, or do you have an office there where you can send the socks from?
I don't know. I guess we'll just cross to it.
Is there anything Launch Darkly does to identify nested flags?
Yeah. So, Stephen, within the portal, you can actually have a nested flag. So a flag depending on a flag, depending on another flag, and it tells you to say, look, this flag is dependent on this flag, so you can easily navigate it. So it's just not, or you have to figure out which flags are dependent on which. It tells you within the portal via the GUI.
So cool. All right. Well,
Awesome.
on that note, I think we might wrap it up. Thanks very much, Adrian. That was really fantastic. I haven't seen that talk before, and this is a space that I really love. I'm really excited about this stuff, and it was really great to see that demo. So thank you very much for your time. I'll leave the last words with you if you want to sign off with anything, or just say goodnight to everyone on the call.
No, all good. Look, if anyone has any more questions, feel free to reach out. Email me, LinkedIn, find me if you have any questions or you want to find out a little bit more.
Great. Thanks very much. And thanks everyone for coming. Take it easy.
Thanks so much, everyone. Cheers.